He's Michael Lombardi. You could catch him on hosting the podcast GM Shuffle on Coach with Bill Belichick, and every Monday through Friday on VSiN Morning Line. Michael, how are we doing today? Thanks for taking the time.
We are good. Today starts, I think, 55 days in a row where we're going to get football every single day of the week.
Woo!
So life can't be bad. Yeah. I think we go right to the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. This is what we do. Some of it's college, some of it's pro, but life is good.
Hey, every day, if I could throw football on my TV, I'm in heaven. I know you are too. Let's get with the biggest storyline in the NFL right now, and that is Davante Adams going to the Raiders, saying he prefers to get traded. When you look at the teams that may need him, where he wants to go, but when you just look at it from your perspective, Michael, what makes the most sense for Davante Adams for him and for the team that would be acquiring him?
There's really only one team. It's the Jets. He's got to go play with Rodgers. They have the cap room to do it. They can pull it off. The Saints only have $4 million worth of cap room. You can't take on this contract. Plus, they are in debt over $100 million above the cap next year. That doesn't make any sense. For the Patriots, it would make no sense. He's at a point in his career where he's on the decline, and the Patriots are at a point in their career in terms of rebuilding their offense. They're going to need draft picks. They're not going to need to give away draft picks. So I think this is either the Jets or nothing. Now, this problem's been going on for a while, guys. I mean, this has not just been a fender bender the last couple of weeks. This has been going on for a long, long time. As he's wanted a new contract. He saw all these receiver guys get contracts. He didn't. The Raiders wouldn't give him a new deal. So there's a lot here than just this last week or so.
Yeah, it seems like the Jets is the consensus answer that everyone feels like it makes the most sense for him to go. My question to you is, let's just assume the Jets get the deal done. I look at their schedule, and I see a ton of great defenses coming up. How would this move, how would landing him change the trajectory of the Jets season? I mean, are we talking about maybe a team fighting for the wild card to, hey, this team can win the division and be a bona fide team to go get a Lombardi trophy? How do you sort of see it playing out if they land Davante?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it'll make them certainly better, but they have no explosiveness in their offense. The longest pass play was 39 yards on a busted coverage. They have a hard time making explosive plays down the field. Last week, they couldn't run the football at all. Remember last spring, they were trying to replace Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator, with another coach. They wanted to keep Rodgers happy by keeping Nathaniel, but they also wanted to bring in somebody to help this offense. Garrett Wilson came out this week and complained about how vanilla the offense is. And then, you still haven't added Bobby Saleh, the head coach. He's a 34% winning percentage. I mean, what Super Bowl is leading you to, right? Last week, they couldn't they couldn't make a play when they needed to make one. I think the Jets, because of Rodgers, right? I think Rodgers gives them a chance, but there's so much other areas where they can't seem to ever get it going. And it includes defense. I mean, look, the second half of that Denver game, I know they held Denver to no passing yards, but Denver ran the football. That was how Denver won the game. They were able to run the ball. Every team that's beaten the Jets this year runs the ball. And if you can't stop the run, you're going to lose playoff games.
Yeah, I like that you point out like the Nathaniel Hackett layer to it. And, Rodgers can only cover up for so much. Is this a true, and it should be, is this a true hot seat season and situation for Robert Saleh, especially because of the timeline of Aaron Rodgers, which is a huge unknown. But the second the Jets got him, it's Super Bowl or bust. And we've seen Robert Saleh fumble every opportunity, Michael.
I mean, I don't know who's coaching the guy when he goes to a microphone. I mean, the guy says some of the dumbest things when he goes there. I don't understand it. Like, who's helping this guy, Yeah. And he just puts his foot in his mouth every time he turns around, which shows there's an absence of leadership within the building. To answer your question, I think it's always been either they go in the playoffs or they go home. I mean, I think this will be home for the general manager, home for the head coach, and Woody Johnson will be searching for the next coach. Now, Aaron Rodgers says he wants to play next year. So unless you have Aaron Rodgers involved in the coaching search, I don't know how that's going to work.
Yeah, we'll see how it does finish. I just think of Robert Saleh after that loss to the Broncos, talking about the rain and how it affected it. I don't care. The Broncos dealt with the rain. It's so weird to hear an NFL coach have an out.
That was and he got away with it. Nobody's really called him out on it except you and me. I mean, like, is he going to bring us? I said this on the Coach podcast this week. I hope Robert brings his raincoat to London because it does. It does rain over there. But, I mean, somebody better tell him. I mean, Jim Cantora better call him on the phone and tell him it's raining.
It just is nuts. You're playing at home. You're playing on the turf. You have two great running backs. I
Right.
don't want to hear about rain. And
Well,
it's a
they can't
classic.
adjust the game plan. They can't. So the Broncos came out with a game plan to take away Breece Hall. They took away
Yep.
the run. But they had no answer to fix it. That's the difference. With Sean Payton, he couldn't run the ball in the first half, but he found a way to run it in the second because he knew how to do it. To me, there's a lack of some talent on the Jets, but there's also a lack of coaching, especially in the offensive area.
Yeah, especially, everyone's saying, well, Rodgers is the offensive coordinator. Okay, there has to be an actual OC that can make adjustments because a guy can only do so much from that quarterback position. We're getting into it with the Jets. I think that is going to be a coaching vacancy next season. It's just trending that way. You talk with Bill Belichick, going back your whole career, but especially on coach. It's no hidden secret. That man should be on an NFL sideline. He needs to be coaching. I bet he does. What situation, when you look at all these vacancies that could happen as NFL head coach, would make sense for Bill Belichick for him to take over?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to the comfortability with the ownership group, right? I think that's that's what makes teams win. That's what makes teams lose. Is if there's buffers between the owner and the head coach, it's very challenging. It becomes hard when other people want to be involved in making decisions that are not really qualified to make them. Then it's a hard organization to run. The reason why Bill didn't take the job with the Jets and he resigned as the HC of the NYJs is because he didn't want to have somebody in between them. He wanted to be able. Leon Hess had Steve Gutman running the team, and Steve Gutman was an accountant. He wasn't a football person. So I think that would be it. I don't know which one would fit him perfectly. I think he would help any team. It's remarkable to me that as good of a coach as he is, he's not on the sideline. The guy in Miami, Mike McDonald, he doesn't have a Mike McDaniel, he don't have a quarterback, but it's okay. He's 4-10 over his last 7 games, the last 2 years of the season, had two playoff appearances and get whooped, but yet everything's fine down there. So a lot of it is perception, right?
Yeah, no question about that. Let me ask you this. Take me behind the curtain and teach me some things, because this New England Patriot offensive line is the worst I have ever seen with thine eyes. Is there anything they could do? Is there anyone on the street, for God's sake?
No.
Tell me as a GM or director of player personnel, what do you do?
Well, there's two things that happen with football teams. It's either a design problem, meaning that you designed it wrong, you picked the wrong players, or it's a production problem where the players are not producing to the level of what you should expect.
Right.
And I think in this case, it's both. It's a design and a production. This was bad the first day of training camp. This has been bad all along. They've made no movement to fix it, And the one kid they signed from Pittsburgh, who they brought in to be the left tackle, he wasn't good enough. I can't say his name. I don't even know where the hell he is. He must be on America's Most Wanted. He's out there in witness protection. So I don't know where he is. But to me, it's a real issue. And, they drafted 2 years ago, they drafted some linemen, but none of those guys have been able to come through. They cut the one kid from UCLA. Andrews is on IR. They kind of messed up his knee. He's not healthy. And so none of these guys are getting better. They signed Michael Lombardi, and they're actually surprised that he's not in shape, and he's heavy, and they moved him into guard originally because he was so out of shape. But to me, this is a combination of all things. It's a failure of the personnel department, it's a failure of the coaches, it's a failure of the head coach to get the team in shape and not recognizing the problem early enough and trying to figure out a way to fix it.
Yeah, 4 straight games, 4 different starting left tackles. There's a trickle down effect.
Look, let me say this to you guys. There's no left tackle that you can find on the street. There's none.
And that's what I was going to ask. Is that possible? Like, Donovan Smith is out there. I don't know if he's in football shape, but he's not with the team right now. But is that impossible at this point?
Even though he's not good enough, he would help. How about that?
He's an actual left tackle.
He's actually played in games. He won a Super Bowl last year, but you're going to have to pay him some money. And they're probably sitting there saying, well, they're counting on the young rookie. We got to get him to go. But here's the problem is that we're not getting better from week 1 to week 2, no matter who's playing. Yeah. Right? You got to get guys better, and that's an issue. And for Alex Van Pelt, it's hard to call plays when everybody knows you can't pass protect and everybody knows they're coming after the pocket. It's really challenging.
Yeah, and what is a solution, Michael? I mean, it's only 4 weeks, and that's what's hard. If this was week 13, 14, it's plug your nose and let's just get to the offseason. But it's early on, and I can't see this being sustainable with them getting this level of play from Jacoby Brissett. But if they look at Drake Maye, they go, we can't put you out there, kid, because you will get crushed.
He couldn't put. I mean, the people that say put Drake Maye out there are insane. First of all, if you're Drake Maye's father, would you want him to go out there with that line? Give Purple Hearts to Jacoby Brissett. I mean, it takes a real man to go behind that line. It takes a man to stand in there against San Francisco. Yeah. I don't want to hear people criticizing Jacoby Brissett because, that's a challenging job to have. But again, this is a bad design. I mean, look, this has been a problem. Everybody, we got to get skilled players. We draft a skilled player at the top of the second round. Well, they don't do you any good if you can't block.
Yes.
They don't do you any good if you can't block.
It sounds like franchise malpractice to sort of go into the season and think, well, we sort of have a blind spot at offensive line, but we'll figure it out. Was there a time in your career, I know it wasn't an offensive line level, but where you went into a season knowing, hey, we're a little bit weaker at this position? That's why I said take me behind the curtain. Is there a way? Do you know ahead of time? It
happened with us with the offensive line. It was when Bill and I were together in Cleveland. We had Bernie Kosar. We had an immobile quarterback. We couldn't fix the offensive line, and we just kept chasing our tail because it was always a problem. And then finally we get Tony Jones at left tackle. We signed Wally Williams. We put Bob Dahl from a defensive lineman, made him an offensive lineman. We drafted Steve Everett. We had Orlando Brown. All of a sudden, when Bernie left, we went from him telling everybody we're the worst line in the history of football to having a good line. And we hired Kirk Ferentz. That was the big thing. We hired Kirk Ferentz. And so, to me, it's a little bit of everything. You got to get the right players in. Offensive line, you have to develop them. You have to make them better week after week. They got to get tougher. I mean, I don't know what they're practicing like in the way. I know everything's happy and friendly and it's anti-Bill Belichick, but how much are they really doing to make the players better? And I think that's the concern. Last year, with Clem, he had the medical condition. He didn't, he struggled to coach the group. They weren't getting better last year either. That was one of the concerns of their team last year. Trent Brown could be a really good player, but he was lazy. He wasn't getting better, but he could play left tackle. You could line him up over there. I mean, Connor McGovern, I think it was, he played left tackle. He actually played at half decent, better than what they're getting right now, and they cut him. So I think a lot of it is both ways.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And we have to see something from Scott Peters. But the injuries, there's been a shuffle and all that. But does that say a reflection to you of what it is, like what the culture is in that building? Week 1, we see him come out, beat the Bengals, upset him. We're looking, this is a complete football team. It's disciplined. By week 5, to see the lack of improvement from the offensive line. Ramondre Stevenson still fumbling. Is that a poor reflection? Is that something where you have to look at the head coach and the position coaches and go, what is going on here?
Well, you are who you want to be, right? You're either coaching it or allowing it to happen, right? If you see the line as a problem, you got to have to figure it out. I mean, that's what you're getting paid $8 million a year for. Right. You can't say I don't coach the offensive line. You're making $8 million a year, $9 million, whatever you're getting paid. You got to go over there and fix it. That's where expertise comes in. That's where we're in this subcontractor building here at the NFL, where Mayo's not going to walk over to the line coach and tell him what to do because he doesn't know anything about line play. But seasoned head coaches do. They would walk over there and say, what I want. We're going to work on these drills. I want to work on this. He's got to leave it up to the mercy of his line coach. So it's a real problem. I think, to me, that's one of the things you get into when you have this art of specialization that they have today in the NFL. It's challenging.
You said there's no way I'm bringing Drake Maye in with this offensive line. I ask you, is this a true redshirt year for Drake Maye? Yeah. Do you not play him this season at all?
I'm not letting the kid get killed until the line starts to play better. What am I going to do? Put him out there? You want to have David Carr where he's looking down all the time, getting hit? Because that's what you're going to have. He might have a good pass here. He might have a good pass there. But what you're going to end up seeing is he's going to end up looking at the rush. He's going to get hit so many times. I mean, it's going to happen to Caleb Williams too. That's the same problem with the Bears had. This is the mentality we're in the National Football League. You want to draft receivers, we got to get receivers. Ryan Poles in Chicago, I got to have more receivers. He's, I trade for Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen averages 6 yards a catch. How's that trade working out for you, right? Meanwhile, your quarterback's getting killed. But he thought he had the best offensive line in Chicago Bear history. Meanwhile, they can't block anybody.
Right.
I mean, the game, it's not complicated, right? The game only has become more complicated because we have people involved that don't know the game. So they keep telling you we need people to put the ball in the end zone. The best teams in the league block. Detroit, why is Goff so good? Because they protect for him.
Yeah.
They block for him. Why are the Bengals struggle? Because the Bengals, as good as Chase is, they could have picked the best right tackle in all of football. Penny Sewell, they would have had a Hall of Fame left tackle in Penny Sewell.
Ooh.
Now, they may have gotten a Hall of Fame wide receiver, but they would have had a Hall of Fame left tackle. Those are hard to find.
Yep.
And that Hall of Fame left tackle could be protecting their Hall of Fame potential future quarterback,
That's right.
but he's always injured. Michael Lombardi, appreciate you taking the time as always. Catch him on the
Thanks,
GM
guys.
Shuffle, on Coach, and of course every morning VSiN Morning Line. Appreciate you hopping on. Thank you so much.
Anytime, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.